Okay, Michelle. Rochelle, if you can just unmute. Rochelle, you're on mute. If you could just unmute, we're going to start. Oh, Lord.
Did Debbie get in?
No, I don't know, but hold on. Rochelle is not able to. Hold on.
Why am I getting so many emails?
Ellie, can you unmute? Rochelle, you are unmuted. Oh gosh. Okay. Okay, I don't know what to say here. Okay, Rochelle, you're okay now. Go ahead.
That's good. Okay, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the first ever Emunah of Canada and Emunah of America joint Emunah Shabbat. This program of women's learning on a Shabbat afternoon began 26 years ago, organized and inspired by Esther. It began in Toronto and then was picked up in Montreal. Last year, due to the pandemic, we had a national event on Zoom, not on Shabbat, but it gave Emunah Canada supporters an opportunity to join together to learn Torah and celebrate the work we do to benefit our children and families in Israel. This year, we have expanded to include members from both Canada and the US. I think that's an amazing event. Thank you to all the organizers, to everyone for attending, and for your generous donations. The proceeds from tonight's Shiur have a sweet destination. We will be sponsoring an ice cream truck to visit all the children in the 5 Emunah children homes in Israel. These are extra treats that would not be possible if not for your generosity. Thank you for your meaningful support. Upcoming events, Emunah of America's events are many and varied. You can go on the website, emunah.org, for all the details. Emunah Toronto is planning an ice cream truck event in August, and Emunah Montreal has just launched their Family in Israel campaign. I look forward to when Emunah Shabbat will again be on Shabbat, because that will signify that this pandemic is over. But I'm so inspired by all of you who have joined together tonight to learn Torah and support our precious children in Israel. Thank you again for your continued dedication to Emunah. Please give your attention to the video. It will be followed by the National President of Emunah of America, Debbie Binnenfeld, who will introduce our guest speaker, Mrs. Esther Wein. Thank you again.
Hi, my name is Lori Zanisser. I am the CEO of Emunah of America. And unfortunately, Debbie cannot, let me remove the spotlight. Unfortunately, Debbie cannot be on this evening. She just can't get through for some reason. So we apologize, Debbie. I'm sorry that you can't get in. Anyway, I just want to thank everyone for coming. We're so privileged and honored to have Esther Wein this evening. I have known Esther for many years. And like many of us in the 5 towns have attended Esther's shiurs and have been inspired by her wisdom and knowledge. Esther has been teaching Jewish women for close to 30 years. She's known for teaching subjects such as Parsha, Tefillah, Navi, history on an intellectually advanced level, but gearing her shiurim towards students with all levels of education. Esther has recently developed a groundbreaking short course on the foundations of Judaism entitled Judaism Take 2. This course, which is based on Kabbalistic ideas, will breathe new life and understanding into one's personal spiritual identity. Tonight, Esther will share with us what Emunah really means and explore the deeper layers of Emunah. Esther, I hand it over to you. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Where is this? There she is. Sorry. Go ahead, Esther. Can you unmute?
Okay, here we are. All righty, everybody. I wonder if I can put my screen on gallery view so I see all of you. Welcome all to this Emunah learning program. Thank you to all of you who run Emunah in America and in Canada and devote your lives to helping other people. And since this is a learning program, the goal tonight will be serious learning. All right. We all talk about Emunah. We use the word Emunah all the time. Our goal tonight is to delve deeper, peel away some layers, and get to a more profound understanding of what Emunah actually is. And it's very appropriate that your organization is called Emunah Women, because Emunah, believe it or not, is female. Now, what does that mean? Why is Emunah feminine? What's feminine about Emunah? And in order to answer that question, we're going to have to figure out what Emunah actually is. What is the definition of Emunah? And then ask why it's feminine. So what we're going to do now, how we always start, delving into any issue, is with the word itself. We always start with the word itself. What does the word exactly mean? So we're going to bring a bunch of sources from Tanakh that use the word Emunah. And guess what? In none of those examples does Emunah ever mean what everybody thinks it normally means, which is faith. Most people, if you ask them what Emunah means, they say to believe. I have Emunah, that there's a God. I have Emunah that God took us out of Egypt. I have Emunah that Mashiach will come. And they feel very legitimately justified defining Emunah like that because, hello, we have the 13 Ikrim and it says, Ani Mamin. But the truth is that we absolutely, as a Jewish nation, do not rely for any of the foundations of our faith, of our religion, I'd say, on faith. No, we're not supposed to believe that there's a God. And we're not supposed to have a leap of faith that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. And we're not supposed to have any leaps of faith at all when it comes to the facts, the truths that have been established, experienced by our nation, revealed. There's no leap of faith. There's no hopeful, wishful thinking. Emunah never, ever, ever means faith in terms of, I don't know, I believe that it is so. I trust that it will be so, but I don't know. It never, ever, ever means that. In fact, where Emunah comes into play is not so much in determining or establishing truths Not at all. That's something totally separate. Truths are established, effectively, permanently by God in many different ways. Har Sinai, the exodus from Egypt, those are all established. Emunah does not have anything to do with that. Emunah has to do with something else. Emunah has to do with being ne'eman. Now let's look into a couple of psukim, okay? Some of these psukim you might be familiar with. There's a pasuk in Yeshayahu, if you want to write it down, chapter 22, pasuk 23. There's even a newspaper that has the same name, Yated Ne'eman. The pasuk says, Tekativ Yated B'makom Ne'eman. I will fix, like a stake, when you put in a tent, I will fix it securely. I will stake it in a place that is ne'eman. So what does ne'eman mean here? It doesn't mean wishful thinking, a belief. No way. I will put a stake of a tent in a place that is ne'eman. Ne'eman here means secure, steadfast, trustworthy, a place I can rely on, a place that can hold the stake, something that I can rely on, that it will protect and secure this stake that I'm digging in here, that the entire structure, I can feel confident, is secure because the place where the stake is driven into the ground is very solid. So ne'eman means steadfast or solid or secure, okay? In Nehemiah, when he's describing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God describing Abraham, he says, Umatzasa es levavo ne'eman lefanecha. You found, and here I have to just make this super clear, whenever you see the word leiv in Tanakh, it doesn't mean the heart, it doesn't mean the passions, it means the mind. It always retranslate it. They didn't have a different word for mind, they used the word leiv. And so what it says here, Umatzasa es levavo ne'eman lefanecha, what that means about Abraham is that God found that the way he thought, his concepts, the way he saw the world, his worldview, his understanding was solid, reliable, predictable, meaning he wasn't wishy-washy. He knew what was right. Took him 75 years to figure it all out and discover it more and more and more and more. When he came to an understanding of how this world runs, the concept of a single God and God's intervention with humanity and God's providence, he never deviated, never deviated. Even when he was younger, with that whole story of the fiery furnace, never deviated. He was steadfast. Steadfast means that once the steadfastness is established, you can rely on it. It never falters. In Sefer Devarim, in Bamidbar, it refers to Moshe, okay? And in Vayikra really also refers to Moshe as Ne'eman, B'chol Beiti Ne'emanhu. Now, it cannot mean about Moshe that he had the most blind faith as everyone, that he believed the most. He was the greatest Navi that ever lived, the greatest prophet that ever lived, which means that he had the closest possible experience of the presence of God that a human being could ever have. So he didn't have any faith. Rather, what it means is that he was the most loyal and steadfast and reliable among all of the other people that ever merited, all the other prophets that ever merited to have some sort of flow of ideas into their mind from God. He was the one that God could rely on the most. In which way? To convey everything accurately and to transform the world with how he conveyed God's messages. He was the most reliable. Nothing would be lost in the transmission. And that's why we trust the Torah today. So what we're establishing here is that the word Emunah, which is built off the root of Aleph Mem Nun, the Aleph, the Mem, and the Nun, is what it means when it's used, when it's conjugated. It means trustworthy, committed, absolutely loyal, committed, steadfast. That's a good word. That is unshakable. We're talking about a devotion to something that's unshakable, a commitment to stay true to something that is unshakable. Okay, we're talking about a commitment to truth, to stay true to something. The question is, what does one do with a commitment to stay true to something? You need a something. You need a something. What am I staying true to? You cannot have emunah in a vacuum. Emunah is something that comes second. It never comes first. It comes second to something else. There's always something that precedes emunah, and then emunah comes in to say, oh, well, in that case, I devote myself to it. I will never deviate. I will never, at the peril of my life, I will never turn my back on this. I will never repudiate this. I will represent and commit and live and die for this. But you need a this. What is emunah devoting itself to? That's the question. So you know in davening, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Emunah is found in relationship. We say this after Shema. The word emunah is found in relationship to another word. Emes ve'emunah. Now that makes sense. Emes means there are absolute truths. They've been established, they've been revealed, and they continue to be discovered because they are the underpinnings of life itself. There are truths. The truths that underpin all of our identity as Jewish people, okay, are, as we said, they are key. And what emunah does is it comes and it's a promise to, as we said, stay loyal to these truths and build a world where these truths can flourish. Now, what are these truths? Well, Rambam wrote in an introduction to his explanation of the 10th perek in Sanhedrin, which is called Perek Chelek. He wrote a long introduction. And in the introduction, he talked about what people must know in order to have a functioning Jewish ideology. And in that intro, he lists the 13 ikrim, what we know as the 13 ani mamins, the things you have to have emunah in. Okay. Now, every single one of the 13 fundamentals, okay, that Rambam says it is imperative to have emunah in these 13 things. Every single one of them has already been experienced or proven or promised through Moshe, who has in the Torah, who has been proven and is absolutely trusted. So if you break down the 13 ikrim into 3 categories, they really are 3 categories. The first 5 deal with God, that God is the beginning of, God began all of everything. There is nothing before God. There's no such thing as before even. That God runs everything, that God is involved with everything, that God knows everything, and that there is no other force besides God, and Hashem has no parts, and Hashem is entirely one, and we are all effectively part of that one, because one means there's nothing else. You can't have Hashem here and then other stuff. So if Hashem is everything, we're part of the everything. Anyone who's heard any of my shiurim has heard me repeat for a trillion times the Kabbalistic image, which is of our relationship with Hashem, which is like a fetus within the womb of the mother. We exist within, we are participating within the existence of God himself. God's entire creation, everything that exists, 150,000 species of palm trees, et cetera, in all areas of creation, from the macro to the micro to everything. All of it is God's creation. Another word for creation is self-expression. It is all God's self-expression. And we, human beings, are the most concentrated form of Hashem's self-expression. It lives in us in its most concentrated form. And that's why human beings want to express themselves, because we are like God. And that's what society is all about today, by the way. This is what society is understanding. They're just not knowing how to use it correctly because of the emes and emunah balance hasn't yet found its proper equilibrium. What do we mean? There are truths that are the underpinnings of the world itself. The first is all about Hashem's existence. There is a God. We exist within and participating in and part of Hashem's existence and part of Hashem's self-expression. Yes, we are the most concentrated form of Hashem's self-expression. Correct. That's what a human being is. Secondly, the next few ikrim are about the Torah and prophecy. Yes, God communicates. Yes, it is possible, and Rambam says till today, to develop one's spiritual perfection to such a degree that there is a flow. Think about the umbilical cord. There is a flow straight into the psyche of a highly developed person, bringing spiritual truths, nutrients, but spiritual understanding and ideas, effectively messages into their mind. Yes, it is possible. Rambam says there's even a degree of it still attainable today. It's called Ruach HaKodesh. And God does communicate. And it is possible to receive the messages and the ideas and the truths that Hashem is, so to speak, expressing with the hard work and the perfection guided by obviously the Torah and the mitzvahs. And that's a whole other section that there is Torah and mitzvahs are the path to the way to open up that flow and receive communication, reception from God himself. Okay. That is a fact. It's been proven. All of these things were proven. You know when they were proven? They were proven in Mitzrayim. God proved all of this, that there's only one God, controls all of nature, talks to people, knows what everyone's doing, knows who's been good and bad. It's all been done. These are all what falls into the category of emes. These are all truths. We all experience them. The third category is three things that have been promised but have not yet been fulfilled. And this is very much where Emunah plays a very important role in all the areas, but this particularly. And that is Mashiach, the institution of justice throughout the world, where finally good people get good happening to them and the bad people get their punishment, like actual justice, which we don't get to see that often. And Tchias HaMesim, Mashiach, justice, and Tchias HaMesim, reward and punishment as they call it, and Tchias HaMesim. Now Mashiach hasn't come yet, and Tchias HaMesim hasn't happened yet officially as we, as it's this, destined to be in the future beyond the days of Mashiach. However, what Emunah is, emes and Emunah. Emunah is our work. Okay, emes is not our work. God revealed himself in Egypt. God revealed that he controls everything. God spoke to people. This is not our work. Our work is not the emes part. That exists, not the truths. The truths exist. They exist and they explain everything that's happening in the world. And they're described in the Torah, explained in the Torah. But our work, the work of humanity, is Emunah, which is to commit to live by these truths. To commit to live, despite whatever's going on in the world around us, to commit to live with a steadfast confidence. It's not faith at all. It's not blind faith at all. It's a steadfast confidence that no matter what's going on around me and whatever, all the ideologies that are coming up and, coming and going, okay, I know that a human being is not nothing, is not purposeless, that a human being isn't some sort of accident, that a human being doesn't have to invent their identity out of thin air. I know that a human being is a creation of God, and not more than that, a participant in God's existence. And that's where that's where the ability and of course the natural tendency to value every human being and every creation and the environment and animals, everything, because it's all God's self-expression. And if we can't see that in the world around us, then we don't even have a clue who we are and what we are. So the idea that we know this is true, we know what a human being is, we know why a human being is unique and special and sacred and needs to be treated as you Emunah women are committed to, with dignity and care, no matter what. Judaism does not discriminate. It's the most anti-Jewish thing in the world to imagine that some of God's self-expression has less value than some other of God's self-expression. The only difference is that some people know their value and their stature as participants in God's, God's, as we said, creation, God's self-expression, and some people have no idea, and therefore they don't really know what to do with their lives. And when we see people that have no idea what their identity should be, and therefore they tattoo themselves from head to toe and just try to figure out their identity by looking at their bodies or how they feel today, this really shows us that human beings at their core, they want to express themselves, but they don't have direction. They have this some sort of desire to express that they have something unique about them, but they don't have the MS. They don't know who they are. They don't know who they are because they've forgotten all about the MS, what's been taught to the world a long time ago. And was taught to the world a long time ago at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And it was not just a lesson for the Jewish people, it was a lesson for humanity, right? It was effectively the beginning story of our entire national existence, right? The story of our national existence begins with Yetzias Mitzrayim, with the Exodus from Egypt. And do you know what the Exodus from Egypt is, really? It's a divine protest against human beings devaluing other human beings and not seeing in another human being a divine being, someone who's channeling some aspect of God himself. That's what it is. It's a protest against devaluing human being. And that's who we are. And so we commit to that. That's where we commit to living like that, even if the rest of the world has forgotten all about that. And what about Nevuah and Torah? Yeah, we commit to living by a code of law and a lifestyle that gives us the best possible chance of developing ourselves into participants in God's unfolding of the story of history. We participate in that. Queen Esther, history unfolded through her. We participate in God's unfolding history. And that's because we know that God is at work and there is a communication and there is providence. And it doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks, that it's random and nothing is, and there's nobody watching. We're committed to a very, very, very different view. We commit. We don't have wishful thinking or faith that. No, we are committing to never giving up and never abandoning and never denying the truth that we know as a nation, that God guides history and God guides us individually. And I want to tell you an amazing story shortly. And what about Mashiach and Tchias and the resurrection of the dead in the future? We are committed to the promise. We are committing ourselves to never lose faith or to be disheartened or to be too impatient that we give up. We are committing ourselves to stay the course, to keep on swimming, to keep doing what we're doing as what we should be doing until the time that there will be a change in the world order. And the great change of the world order, what Mashiach is renowned for, how Mashiach is described throughout the book of Yeshayahu in chapter 2, chapter 11, the end chapter 66, many chapters in between. You know what Mashiach is? Social justice warrior. That's right. Coming to bring justice to the world. And we will not give in to say, you know what, there's no justice. Everyone just do what they have to do. Survival of the fittest because there's no justice. Everyone just do what you want to do. Do what you got to do because there's no justice in this world. No. The Jewish people are committed to the promise and the trust that this will come true. That yes, justice will be restored. If you look at this, Yeshayahu, Mashiach is always talked about in terms of restoring justice to the world, making it a place that makes sense. No longer allowing might makes right and survival of the fittest and lies to create policies and power. And we know that. And how do we stay committed to that? We conduct ourselves honestly and with justice, no matter how dishonest everybody around us is. A person appreciates the environment. Justice requires that we take care of the environment. So even if everybody else is using everything disposable, let's say. A person has to live by their conscience and care about the environment and do what's just and try to protect the environment in the little tiny way they can, not because they'll make a difference, but because they have to live a life of justice. And they have to live a life of truth, even if nobody cares and they won't. And maybe even they'll lose money because they're being honest. We believe in honesty. We are waiting for a world of justice restored. And therefore we remain just all along the way, no matter how much it doesn't pay, so to speak. So Emunah is a commitment to the truths that we saw, that were experienced, that became the driving forces of the world, of the spiritual world. The world is going in the direction that all these great truths will be eventually well known and by everyone. And that's why Emunah is female. And what I mean by that is, in Kabbalistic language, whenever there is a expression, okay, of self that comes from outside of us, that is called male. Male, just think about it. In the physiologically, a male in intimacy, in any one act of intimacy releases, I think it's 500 million sperm. What that means is self-expression, infinite potential. But what do you do with it? What do you do with all that potential life, or metaphorically, potential worlds that can be built? What do you do with it? You need a woman. You need a receiver. You need someone to accept it, to promise to build it, to commit to it, to be steadfast. And the female, and don't forget males and females, physical males and females are just analogies for much greater forces going on, much greater forces called male and female. The physical female is a perfect analogy, because what does the female body do? Devotion, steadfast, commitment, building up the potential world, that potential life that came from outside, okay? Outside the male is the force called emes. Emes is male. Emes means Hashem reveals truths to the world, splits the sea, says, I am God. Hashem reveals truth. Hashem speaks to people. Hashem makes promises. That's all from outside of us. That's called male. Okay? Again, a human male is just an allegory for this. And then the nation of Israel, and we are the light to the nation. So by extension, all of mankind, the human race in totality, is moving forward through the guidance of the Jewish people, who were the first to commit to this, the first to promise to stay steadfast to these truths. We committed to them, to these truths, and we therefore live by them, and we devote ourselves to them, and we're relentless, and we do not give up. And no matter how much effort it takes, just like a woman who's in pregnancy, gestating, that life, this steadfast commitment. That's what it is. And that is Emunah. Emunah is therefore female. Emes is male. Emunah is female. Emes, so to speak, builds a house that, Emunah builds the house that Emes can dwell in. Emes revealed, truth revealed, but without anyone committing to it and living by it and fighting for it and sacrificing for it and even dying for it, it goes nowhere. It dissipates. It's forgotten in no time. We all know in our own lives we've had epiphanies and insights, but if we don't commit to making them part of our life in some real way, we forget them. We forget them. We're always inspired by this or that, but it comes down to a commitment to build it into our day-to-day routine, to put it in our calendar, something. Learn the laws of Lashon Hara every day. We got to do something about it, or the great inspiration and the great truth will just flit away. Now, you women here who are devoting yourself to Emunah, Emunah women is such a perfectly beautiful name, Emunah women. You are, whether you know all this philosophy or not, you're committing to the most basic emes of all the truths in the world, which is the value and the dignity of human beings. Don't forget, it was in chapter 1 of Genesis, of Bereshit, where God himself calls a human being a Tselem Elokim. which essentially means something that is of God, that is just like God. And as we described it, and as the famous Nefesh HaChaim explains it, that God is a creator, self-expresses, makes everything happen. We have that in us too. It's the most foundational drive of a human being is to express themselves. And so all you women who are creating the opportunities for people to be at their top of their game, to be able to be who they can be, to let go of the burdens that would otherwise hold them back. It's the most fundamental, truest form of Emunah, a commitment to the emes. The emes is, as we said, that we are all expressions, part of God's self-expression, and that's why God came, created, the Jewish people were founded with this great story of Hashem breaking into the world to make it clear forever that devaluing other people and suppressing other people and holding other people back and thinking that other people are just props in my show. In other words, living in a state, I often use these two constructs, and I'm going to tell you a great story for a few minutes. There's two ways to live. There's survival of the fittest, what we'll call survival mode. And it basically is like this. All I know is I'm here. I need to survive. I need to get my needs met. That's all it's about. And whatever resources I have, I'm going to use them to get my needs met. And either you're my ally if you help me get my needs met, or you're a foe, you're a threat to me, you're an enemy if you get in my way, and then I'm going to get rid of you. It's called survival mode. And everybody looks at each other as a potential threat or competitor. And then everyone starts devaluing everyone. And you want to get all the horrible things. Everybody tries to diminish the other person, exploit the other person, take advantage of the other person, and finds every vulnerability, race, color, ethnicity, whatever you want, to exploit other people and to harm and to just basically get an advantage at someone else's expense. But then there's the alternative. We call it creator mode. It's when we have an identity. We have the emes. We know chapter 1 in Bereshis. We know who we are. We know we're part of Hashem's self-expression. And so is everybody else. And then everything changes. And we look to other people for what they have to offer. And we look to the Torah to teach us how to live like that, how to live with that creator mindset, how to overflow with expression that is true expression, not expression that we invented out of a vacuum, but expression of a human being that is channeling God himself and emulating God in all the positive ways that we know about. So these are our options, and you've chosen well to support people of every sort of person in Eretz Yisrael, young and old, females and males, I'm sure, helping everybody achieve their best. And that is really the goal. That's what everyone was supposed to do. That is what Emunah does. It attaches to emes, the ultimate emes of the value of a human being, and it builds it. And here, let me tell you a story. If we have a few more minutes, how many, do I have 5 more minutes?
Absolutely, yes.
This is a really true story. It was in the news. It was out there. You could probably Google it. So talking about commitment to what's right and to the value of another human being. So where do we start? So I have a friend. Her name is Gitti Allman. And she's a very close friend of mine. And about 2 years ago, in the middle of 2019, she thought she saw an ad that said, "We're looking for blood donors. Please reach out to us if you have B positive blood, because it's a very rare blood type." So she goes, "Sure." So she sent an email back. "Yeah, I'm happy to donate, some B positive blood." So they sent her back a letter that said, "Thank you so much for offering to donate your kidney. We would like to contact you about arrangements." So she's like, "I never said donate my kidney." But the idea was in her head, and she was like, "I don't know, let me think about this." So it took her a little bit, and she started researching it, and she said, "You know what? There's this wonderful organization called Renewal, and you might be familiar with it." And she said, "Okay, you know what? Actually, I think I'm going to donate my kidney." It was like, now I want to say something. She has her own challenges in life. She's amazing, and she has a beautiful family, Baruch Hashem, but she has her challenges. And she wanted to be in a position to give, to really give in a substantial way. She's overflowing with a spirit of generosity, and she wanted to give. She was, you know, overwhelmed very often with kindness that people did for her, and she wanted to give. She says, I'm going to give a kidney. So the process starts. Now, usually it's about a 3-month process until you get cleared. But it took it took 6 months because, I don't know, they wanted to test this and they wanted to test that and this and then until her appointments. And she gets cleared somewhere, I forgot the exact day, but it was like December 29th or something like that of 2019. Okay. Split screen. On December 19th of 2019, I don't know if you heard about it, I'm sure you did, there was a terrorist attack in Jersey City on the Jewish school. There were shooters trying to basically get into the Jewish cheder, the elementary, the little kindergarten thing there, whatever, the elementary school. There were 50 children there. And what happened was the shooter came out of the car, started shooting, and went into a supermarket or was cornered in a supermarket, got cornered in a supermarket, and they were able to lock the door of the school and they cornered him in the supermarket. So it was Jersey City, and as soon as the drama and the chaos started, obviously the police department sent out a call on the radio about the chaos. And the first officer on the scene, an officer who had been on the force for 42 years and had basically played every role possible in the police force, was the first one on the scene when everybody was already being practically televised, you know, with the phones and everything. Everyone already had images. As people were running away as fast as they could, this police officer was running into the chaos. And he was the first police officer on the scene, and he secured the situation and they cornered the guy in the store. That was it. Now, it happens to be, just by coincidence, that this police officer had gotten a diagnosis that his kidneys were failing 2 years earlier. And he had been in dialysis almost 1.5 years. And he didn't tell anyone. He went to work every day. And that day that he ran out there, okay, he put his life on the line, and he just came from dialysis. And there was another police officer in his department who had passed away, and the daughter of that police officer, not Jewish, but in honor of the soul of her father, wanted to do something and decided she wants to help this officer. His name is Officer Anthony Silver, get himself a kidney. So she went to Channel 12 in New Jersey, and she said, why don't you just put it out there on the television that this officer put his life on the line. You can even show the footage of how he was first on the scene in the whole Jersey City massacre. You know, put it out there that he's looking for a kidney, okay? It was a few days after the massacre that it went on the news. I'm literally sitting in my bed one night at 11 o'clock at night. It was like December 29th. And Gitti texts me and she says, I just got cleared to give a kidney. I'm so excited. I'm clear. And then I get a forwarded Facebook post that says that Officer Anthony Silver, who was the first on the scene in the Jersey City massacre of the Jewish supermarket, is in need of a kidney. So now, here's the thing. My friend had very rare blood type, B positive. I literally said, Gitti, maybe you could give him a kidney. Maybe you give him your kidney. So she was like, oh my gosh. So the next day, 2 days later, she calls the precinct. She doesn't know where to find him. She calls the precinct and she says, hi, my name is Gitti Ullman. I'm looking for Officer Anthony Silver. So it's Irish. Turns out his father's Jewish, by the way. So they're like, yes, who is this? Who can I say is calling? It's Gitti Ullman. What's the message? She was like, tell him that I'd like to donate my kidney to him. So the lieutenant's like, whoa, wait a second. Okay, wait a second. So he says, let me get him. Tell him to call you. Officer Silver literally thought it was a prank call. He thought the guys were just joking him, you know. And he calls her back and she says, I'm an Orthodox woman. And I saw what you did. And I want to donate my kidney to you. And he obviously was speechless, absolutely speechless. He said, you know, I have a very rare blood type. She said, really, what type? He said, it's B positive. She goes, well, I'm B positive too, which of course was like a whole other level of astonishment. Then they went in, they agreed to start with renewal, and they started going for testing. And the doctor who did the genetic workup said, you know, you guys should do your ancestry because your genetics are so similar, you could be siblings. They haven't done that yet. But in any case, she donates her kidney to Officer Silver. Okay. Now, what's going on here? What are the forces in play? And of course, we had an event for them just a couple nights ago, and he gets up to speak, and he is the most humble, simple, good, devoted person, the epitome of a human being, religious man, you know, church-going religious man, the epitome of a human being who is committed to justice and the dignity and the well-being of other people. Just like that. He's committed to the dignity and the well-being of other people. He ran into the gunfire just for other people. And he said when he spoke last night, nobody owes me anything. It's just what I do because I want the city to be safe and I want people to have a good life. Just like that, like no big deal. Now his son is in the service. An incredibly humble and noble person. And what's on display here is very powerful forces. Forces of not just emes and emunah, but also forces that relate to these forces, which are forces called tzedek and mishpat, justice and kindness. Justice and kindness. You know, my friend Gitti, she wanted to do a kindness, but giving it to him was justice. And a commitment to doing her part to bring a little more truth to the world, a little more truth, a little more emes. You know why? Because today police officers are being devalued. They literally give their lives. Of course, there's a bad apple here and there, but by and large, they literally sacrifice their lives for us. And she wanted to bring a little more emes and justice, because justice is truth, into the world. She was motivated by kindness, but she chose him out of justice and emes, wanting to commit herself to build up the value of justice and emes in the world. And what he did every day, kindness of his heart to bring justice into the world. The human being in our core, if we're not corrupted, we want a world of emes. We want a world of justice. We want a world where people are valued. We want a world where every human being is treated with dignity. That's the world we want. Because when everyone else is doing better, we're all doing better. And in order to do that, we need a commitment to that, a commitment to helping other people live in a fair and just world. And yes, what we're taught, and today, if you look outside in society, and with this I'll wrap up and you can tell me your questions. You look around the world today, there's a lot of people that want to devote themselves to justice, but they don't have a clue what justice is. It's all misguided, lots of corruption, lots of imbalance. But there's a yearning. Don't underestimate the yearning of even the most misguided people to really sacrifice for what they believe is justice. Okay, what's needed is emes. You see, we have the emes. When Rambam writes the 13 Ikrim, he says, we have the emes. It's all been established. Now we just have to devote ourselves to it. You can't invent the emes and then devote yourself to it. Okay, that's what's happening today. Some sort of invented, retrofitted emes, and then we all devote ourselves to it until it destroys everything around us. What we're saying is, no, there is a real emes. There's a revealed and established emes in the world. And we have to commit to that emes. And the way to do it is the Torah is our guide. And the mitzvahs of are our guide. And even a holy, holy, righteous Gentile like this man who's keeping the 7 mitzvahs, the righteous Gentile also has what we call a portion in the world to come. Of course, and every single human being on earth is meant to operate like that. Every human being on earth is supposed to operate in a way where they know their value. They know the value of every human being. They know they're part of God. Every human being has an neshama soul. Every human being is created in the Tselem Elokim. And every human being should know it and know it about themselves and about other people and commit to living like that. That's the world we're waiting for. That's the world of Mashiach. And we stay true to the Torah and the mitzvahs and the lifestyle, knowing that this is what we're going to hold on to it. No matter how crazy the world around us is, we're going to hold on to it because it's the only real thing. We're committing to it. It's going to eventually be revealed in the whole world, eventually be known in the whole world. Eventually, there will be a great change in the world order. And until that time, we are living by our conscience. We're living committed to this MS. So I wish you all a lot of strength and opportunities and hatzlacha in all your wonderful work.
Okay, thank you, Esther. I just want to know, before we sign off, you did indicate you would answer some questions. So I have asked people to put your questions into the chat and I will read them out to you. So someone said, how does it fit in? I think they were referring to Tichayat Hamatim,
resurrection of the dead. That the resurrection of the dead is a topic that has, you know, it's a what's the word? Esoteric concept, but it has to do with the ultimate restoration of life as it should be, where there's a synchronicity between God's truth and the self-expression of God himself, and there's a synchronicity in the way human beings live, that there's a rebirth of humanity living in total synchronicity to our core, our root identity, our godly self. That is part of it. That's Tchiyat HaMetim.
Okay. Someone is, Layla Lehman is asking, why does the Amida refer to it in the present tense?
Mechaya HaMesim, very good. Oh, well, you know what? I want to tell you something. I have a course called the 13 Ikrim. We are now in the 12th Ikar. There's only 13. The last one is Tchiyat HaMetim, and we're going to be talking all about it. It's a whole discussion in and of itself. You can go on Torah anytime in a couple of weeks after the summer. We're breaking for the summer, and catch Ikar number 13 of the 13 Ikar series, and we'll learn all about Tchiyat HaMetim. How's that?
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to ask Esti Yaris.
First of all, a shout out to Elaine Jenisoff, who is actually the brainchild behind Emunah Shabbat. Mrs. Wein, as co-chair of Citywide Emunah Shabbat in Toronto, I want to thank you so much for your presentation. We, of course, as you mentioned, are Emunah, and this is Emunah Shabbat, and your insights into Emunah were absolutely enlightening. I particularly enjoy the Emet and the Emunah and the male and the female part, but the whole thing was absolutely enlightening. You've given us a lot to think about, a lot to contemplate. And I know you said that Lev is really the brain. Yes, you reached my brain, but you also reached my heart. You are a teacher par excellence. And I think that every little box here, we were all your students tonight. I want to wish you good health. I want to wish you gesund and briut to continue spreading Torah and enlightening all of us. Thank you so much. And to all you ladies from Toronto, Montreal, Hamilton, Vancouver, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Detroit, and I'm sure I left out a whole bunch of places. Thank you so much for joining us for Emunah Shabbat. And as was said before, we hope to see you next year in person, but I have to be honest, when we have Emunah Shabbat in person, we're all in our own little areas. It is just so nice to see all of you here together. I want to wish you all an easy and meaningful fast. This should be the last Tisha B'Av that we have to fast, and a safe, healthy, fun summer. And before we turn around, wish you all a Ketiva v'Chatima Tova. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther, and Emunah of America also thanks you as well. You know, you're always words of inspiring. And I just want to say, when you were talking about Emunah being female, it builds the house. You know, Emunah builds many homes. We have 5 children's homes, and there's a lot of people in those homes. So that really resonated very nicely with us. So thank you so much. Everyone have a good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. And just, well, by the way, all the proceeds will be going to ice cream trucks, because this is ice cream month. So all the kids will be getting ice cream trucks coming to their homes in the next 2 weeks. Okay, be well, take care, bye-bye.